The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
I'm joined by the other two members of Legal Affairs this evening, Ward 4 Councilor Mark Bedanza and at-large Councilor Todd Deacon. We will welcome Chief Aaron Kennedy and Captain John Freyer to this evening's session. And let me open by reading petition 20-24. Aaron Kennedy, Chief of Police, City of Leominster, requests Section 8G. A city or town which accepts this section may enter into an agreement with another city or town or other cities and towns, including cities and towns in states contiguous to the Commonwealth, and provide mutual aid programs for police departments to increase the capability of such departments to protect the lives, safety, and property of the people in the area designated in the agreement. Said agreement may include the furnishing of personal services, supplies, materials, contractual services, and equipment when the resources normally available to any municipality in the agreement are not sufficient to cope with a situation which requires police action. When providing such mutual aid, police officers shall have all the immunities and powers granted to them in the municipalities that employ them, including, but not limited to, powers of arrest. While in transit to, returning from, enduring a mutual aid response for another city or town, participating police officer shall maintain the right of indemnification granted by law or by his home city or town, or both, for all claims arising out of any action within the scope of his employment in accordance with a valid mutual aid agreement. A mutual aid agreement may provide for methods of activation or requesting and responding to mutual aid requests. The agreement may also address issues such as pay and benefits for officers, insurance, indemnification, injury compensation, and other operational matters related to police services provided for a mutual aid response. Nothing in this paragraph shall be construed to expand or otherwise modify existing police powers as provided by law or any existing mutual aid agreement or both. This first appeared in our calendar on November 13th, was given regular course. And so we find ourselves here this evening in the company of two distinguished public servants. And so at this time, I will turn it over to either Chief Kennedy or Captain Freya, whoever wishes to make the initial presentation.
All right. This started about is the accreditation process for the police department. We're going through a complete overhaul of our policies. And one of the policies needed is to adopt this. So you just have something on the books for our agreements. Like we have Northwestern Drug Task Force, Central Mass SEMLEC, which does the motors and other activities that we take part in. So basically, comparison for this is probably kind of like how the fire department runs their mutual aid. We really thought this was going to be on the books already in the city council, working with Caitlin. We looked far and wide. I mean, it's shocking that it wasn't already on the books. I don't know why, but this has been around for some time. So this is just something we need. Accreditation is one of the steps, and pretty self-explanatory. If anybody has any questions, we can go by it, you know.
Okay. So obviously this is something that we've engaged in for a number of years. I know the fire department's been involved in mutual aid as well for decades, as long as I can recall.
Yeah, we've been providing mutual aid back and forth from neighboring cities, Pittsburgh to us. And we've all been doing it We're members of the Northwestern County Drug Task Force, which we all work and do our job with in the drug world, unfortunately. And some, like, they provide us a lot of resources during the flood. Only reason we could partake of that is because we're members, and it's another form of mutual aid.
Well, I guess the next obvious question is what other cities and towns are participating? And obviously this works both ways. So we provide mutual assistance for them, and they in turn for us when we need it. And being short-handed, I'm sure that's.
So I can tell you, I don't have access to all the different libraries that are out there, but the earliest that I could find mention of this law was back in 1972. And that seemed to be an amendment. And I couldn't find where it originated from, but it's probably been amended 8 or 9 times. I think the last one was 2005, 2006-ish. This is something that is coming to light for a lot of departments as they go through the accreditation process. Every department in the state is moving forward with accreditation. We have to continuously be taking steps forward in that process, or we will lose the ability to apply for federal funds. So this is one of those mandates that are in a policy that we have to accept this if we are a party to any mutual aid agreements. And the agreements that we sign are going to have to state that they're going to have to mention this law in them, that other places have to make sure that they have accepted this. So this is one of those laws that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of police departments. So as they're moving through the accreditation process or certification process now with their policies, departments that are finding that these weren't accepted back then, they're going through this process now. It's one of those. That's a great thing about accreditation. Most of it is administrative, and it's dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It's checking to make sure that all those safeguards are in place. And I don't think this nullifies anything. It doesn't change any sort of legal intent with the past agreements that we've signed or anything like that. But it's definitely something that we all have to have moving forward. So I guess to best answer that, whoever doesn't have it already is going to be doing it. But the Central Mass Law Enforcement Council that we partner with, it's every department in Central Massachusetts right now that used to exclude Worcester. Worcester just joined. So it's literally every single department in Central Massachusetts. Okay. There's actually some from Middlesex County that joined Central Mass as well that are near us, like Shirley, all the way out to Littleton. That cover that western part of Middlesex County. They joined Semlec as well, just because we're all near each other, so that we can cover each other if necessary. God forbid we have a major incident, something like that. We need those resources to come in and assist us, like the flood.
Yeah, the flood. And we were lucky. I mean, Chief Martineau of Fitchburg, he reached out, I don't know, it was like midnight that night, saying, I'm going to send some guys. I had Lester in Millbury send people, which I didn't expect. I reached out to them and thanked them after the water had went away.
With the county sheriffs.
With the county sheriff. So we all work as a team, just like the fire. We just do it in different ways.
So Captain, I know in the past you've been successful in filing and receiving Justice Department grants. So going forward, this is something they're going to be looking for, this accreditation as part of that grant application.
Yeah. So every year we get reviewed by MPAC, the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission, about whether or not we've been taking significant steps forward towards accreditation. And that's a subjective standard for them. They just want to see that you're progressing towards it. Some departments can never be accredited because of their buildings and things like that won't make the standard, but they can at least be moving forward towards certification. And then at that point, they have to come up with a plan of how to mitigate those issues with their building. But if we're not continuously taking steps forward, then they actually file with the DOJ a form. So our VEST grants that we get every year, the JAG grant, things like that. If we're not continuously taking steps forward and we refuse to do things and say, we're not going to do these minimum standards, then they can cut that off.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to other members of my committee before going to the entire council. Councilor Bonanza.
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Councilor Deacon.
Thank you. Haven't been on the job, I can definitely see where the department's going. Much needed. Staffing levels, military service, and some nights are crazy, so I fully support this, and I think it's long overdue. Thank you.
Gallifo Zephyr.
Thank you. So is the department accredited right now? No.
We're in the self-assessment phase.
Okay.
Then it's certification, then it's accreditation.
How long have you guys been working on this?
Off and on.
Well.
3 years.
Even, well, yeah,
3, 4, maybe.
like right around just before you started as chief. We started to get into it, but then we hit some significant snags in terms of like policy management systems and things like that, negotiating with the union. We're through most of that now, but I think I saw mention of even in the late 80s, early 90s, they made an attempt at accreditation and they could never get it.
Mhm.
It takes 4 or 5 years.
So, the primary benefit of being accredited is your access to federal money and federal grant dollars. Is that it?
It also protects the city from liability lawsuits and et cetera like that.
Okay.
Right now, we're working with Eric Daigle. He's out of Connecticut. He's well known in law enforcement field. We're working with him during this process. So we really dove in, 6 months ago? Does that sound right over there? So we're like 6 months. So we're somewhere in the 12 to 18 month range. So we already took like Lieutenant Lee's burning the midnight oil back at the station because there's different phases to go through for various policies needed. Everything from administrative, the building, the officers, all the way up to use of force.
Mhm.
It's pretty structured. I mean, we're going to end up with I guess 300 policies out of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty thorough. It covers everything. This is just one step. I mean, it's minor. I mean, it's really minimal, really. But it's something we needed. That one of the checkboxes.
Got it.
And before we can even approve this one policy and push it down the chain, so we have through our new policy management system, we have a workflow that policies go through.
Mhm.
So right now, we can't even move this through until this is accepted. And then the Central Mass Chiefs are working on updating all their agreements. So we can't even push this through until all those things are done. So we can only have X amount of policies in the queue at a certain time, or else it just becomes too overwhelming.
Mhm.
So right now it's a lot of administrative policies where we are going back and looking at things. And you have to look and make sure that there are certain standards you have to meet, but then you also have to make sure that you can follow through with them.
Right,
So-
that you can manage them going into the future.
Yes, yeah. So administrative tasks that we've always done, and it's just always been a part of the job. It's just things that you normally do. There's now going to be like extra reports about them and things like that. So everything that we're going to end up doing is going to take longer to do it,
Mhm.
but it's something that we have no choice in.
But it reflects best practices
It does.
in
It
the
does.
industry
Eric
today.
Daigle is so
Yeah.
strong in that area, pro law enforcement, and he's great to work with.
Mhm.
Lieutenant Vang Lee's our accreditation manager. He's part of MPAC. He goes around to various departments to do different stages of assessments for them. Pre-1 to see where they're at, or you do a final one like he just did in Northampton. And he's done other departments like Belchertown at various sizes, but it's good to have him because we're like today we had a meeting about evidence at the old station
Mhm.
and things that's happening now that we got to get to the new station with the evidence and how we going to do it. And having him being in the workflow out in the field with MPAC, like having a secret weapon. He's good. He knows
Right.
what you need to go between and how to get there. He's been a valuable asset for us in this because he just dives into it and kicks them out. And then, Kevin Miles gets one stage, then it moves on to Captain Prayer. And then I get the final one, which is the only one in my queue right now is this one because I can't do anything with it until this is passed.
And this reflects basically the way that things work anyway.
It
Correct.
does.
Okay.
Yeah, this changes very little for patrol.
Yeah.
And accreditation can have a positive effect on the city's bond rating.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Frida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to see we're talking accreditation because I can go back to the days of Peter Roddy when he was trying to get an accreditation process in the city. There was resistance, and then a new chief would come in. One would be for it, and then another chief would come in and somebody would be against it. And there was a discussion, and it just never really got done. But it's good to see that you're pushing in that direction. And there are a lot of departments that have been accredited over the years. And I think it's becoming more and more necessary. Obviously, this shows how necessary it is to be involved and to be protected while you're involved. So, I appreciate the fact that you're doing it. And I know how much resistance has been over the years doing it. So I'm glad it's finally there and with a cooperative manner in doing it. So
The unions on both sides, patrolmen and the supervisors, they're younger. They've seen things happen. I'm pushing 29 years, so I've seen crazy things happen, and I go, man, I wish there was a policy on that. But we're seeing things now, and they're like, oh man, definitely this is. Well, the younger guys like, oh man, I have a policy on this. Perfect. I can get it on my phone. Perfect. Yeah. So if we don't have a supervisor on that day, you can pop your phone up, and I see that everywhere when I go to trainings. Like, oh, my guys love it. They pop up this on their phone and like, oh yeah, oh, I did that wrong, but they fix it. But it's funny how everything's at our tips of our hands, But
I think 25, 30 years ago when Chief Roddy was in and he was president of the Chiefs Association, there was a big discussion about getting everybody to credit. It was kind of like a new idea.
Yeah.
But it was probably too new for Leominster at that point.
then I compare to what it is now.
Right. So, it would have been nice if we had done it sooner, but fortunately, nothing has happened, in a negative way to us before it's actually getting done. So, good for you for doing it. Thank you.
Council. Any other councilors? Mr.
Yeah.
President.
Thank you. So basically, what we're doing here is not going to change much of the day-to-day operation. Basically, what we're doing, to make a long story short, is just housekeeping.
Yes, that's a good example.
That's basically what we're doing. Okay. Yeah, sounds good to me. Thank you for all the work I'm sure you put into this. I'm sure there's a lot of research and stuff that was done and preparation. So, and
One of us going to need stronger glasses after we're done reading all these policies.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Captain Malatis is like, when he's done, he's like, comes out of the office. Drained.
Yeah.
Go
This won't be the last request, just so
Right.
you know.
Yep.
I think a few years ago I had to come before the council because we had to change what the city ordinance said about what police officers are allowed to carry at work. And back then it was said twisters and some old things that haven't been used in 60, 70 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We look forward to the the updates that'll be coming in, and making sure that we've done all our housekeeping so that we're in line with today's standards and the new police reform and whatever else is out there. So thank you very much for all your work. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that every council had an opportunity. One last chance. Looks like we're good. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation.
Have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Be
Take
safe.
care. Thanks.
We can go right into the 6 o'clock Ways and Means on C-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is C-25. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request your vote of support by resolution for Cougar Capital Management to be located at 34 Tremaine Street, Leominster. Good evening. You just want to introduce yourself? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. If you can explain a little bit I think this one is actually a little bit different than what we've seen normally. So if you can fill us in and maybe explain about the HDIP tax increment exemption agreement.
program has been approved, they get some tax breaks from. And then they also get the however, there is no funding like for any program on it. And so what has happened with River Capital, they have been approved by the Housing Development Department of Housing and Community Development program for this time only, which means they would still get tax income, but they will not qualify for any credits from the.
Ouch. So that's the only difference. So I think what comes up in every time that we do one of these tax exemption things is people want to know what's in place to protect the city and the city's taxpayers, what their expectation is, what the city's expectation is, the progress that goes along, how we're going to monitor that. So if you can address that a little bit.
So we see a lot of value that they're even 17. So they will be required to better step forward.
And we've had no issues with them thus far. Okay. Okay. All right, let me open it up to other members of my committee. Actually, we're missing Councilor Ardinger. So Councilor Shalafo Zephyr, do you have any?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Thank you. So in my mind, the difference between a TIF and this, TIFs create jobs, right? Because that's what the people are coming into town to do, expand their business, create more jobs. So in looking at this, I mean, I'm very interested in expanding housing. I'm really disappointed in this that it is market rate housing, and there are 14 one-bedroom units, right? And then 3 studios. We need housing for families. We need housing for certainly more than single people or, so why, and I know the comptroller was here, disappeared, but I'm curious as to the amount of the property tax that would be forgiven. It's 100% in the first year, 90, 80, 70. It goes in that respect. So I'm interested in the amount of money that is. I mean, what is the city giving up, the first year, the second year? And I see the comptroller here. I don't know if she can answer that. Oh, okay.
From
Oh, I want to see it now. Yeah. I mean, you can read that. You can read it into the record so everybody, and I think the public would be interested as well. So Amanda, in the first year, the property tax forgiven would be, is it $1,062,000? Is that right? I want to make sure I get the right numbers.
No, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. That is a significant difference. The estimated actual taxes would be, it looks like it would be 1,720. This always makes me a little uncomfortable to read what he has written and make sure that I'm explaining it correctly. But it is an increment of $1,509,300. That answer your question?
No,
No.
I mean,
Sorry, I'm looking.
like-
There's a lot going on in this
right.
spreadsheet.
It's kind of a straightforward question. So maybe when they get here, they can, I don't know if they would be able to answer it because they don't know what their tax bill is being projected at, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm interested in. I want to know really what is the bottom line for the first year? What is the city abating? And also from an economic development, I guess, could you address how this really benefits the city?
Sure. So it does look like the estimated tax savings for the first year is $23,454.52. And then it will decrease from there. The value that we see in this economically is that is bringing more people to the area. It is helping to add value to the property within that district. And it's taking this older manufacturing building and replenishing it, giving it new life and just bringing more people to the area, or at least providing more opportunity for the people in our town to have another option for housing. We understand that it's not lower income, but we think market rate is.
Why aren't there any units that are set aside for more affordable?
I don't have an answer for that yet. I can confirm that there is a housing committee that has started meeting for the city. We're going into our third meeting coming up, so I don't have a strong answer for that at the moment.
All right, thank you.
You're
welcome. I may have other questions, but I'm done. I'm good for now.
Are there any other members of the council? Councilor Brady?
Yes. And this might go to Cougar Capital Management itself. Just doing a little research. They had some substantial loans from Mass Development already.
Okay.
And also tax credit bridge loans. $725,000 grant. I'm just wondering, they seem very, very good at getting grants. The 17 units, right? So you're saying, do we really need to attract that many people? Because people are looking for apartments all the time. I'm just wondering, is this money well spent?
Right. Can we get more for our buck, bang for the buck?
Well, I can't speak to their finances. I can just speak for how we see it as it's something helpful for economics to just continue to grow the area.
Any other members of the council? Councilor Bedanza?
Is this the old Buckley building? Is that what this is?
Yes.
Yeah. So that building has been vacant for how long now? Do we know?
I don't have the exact number, but I know it's
20
been
years.
a significant amount of time, and that's why the value is what it is. There's a lot of deterioration that is needing to be addressed.
And have you toured that building? Do you know the condition of it?
I have not toured it myself.
Yeah.
I do know that Bill had, the former assessor, I know that he had toured it to take a look at it, but I have not been in it myself.
All right. And as you indicated, this company is rehab property on Summer Street, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the council? Okay, seeing none, and if I may, Mr. President, I think we, as the council, we have questions for Cougar Development. Is this him coming in now?
This is Ian.
Ian, perfect timing. Please welcome to the hot seat. No, that's okay. We have some questions for you. Ms. Curtis has been here and has helped, but I think we have some questions for you specifically. So if you would you just tell us a little bit about the project?
Yeah, of course. Do you want me to say my name and address?
Yeah, please.
Ian Hislop, 19 Arlington Street, Cambridge, Mass. Yeah, so 34 Tremaine is a adaptive reuse of a historic mill building, obviously on 34 Tremaine Street in Leominster. And so previously used as manufacturing. About a year ago, we permitted the property for 17 market rate apartments and adequate parking. And then over that process, we were working on securing historic tax credits. Similar to how we've done at two similar properties at 41 and 45 Summer Street in Leominster. And so throughout that process, we've been working with Mass Development as well. And part of that process, we were looking to do a TIE as well as an HDIP. And the HDIP funding was delayed. And ultimately we had to proceed. So partly why the TIE is coming a little later to you folks.
Can you give us an idea what you have for funding, what you have secured to date?
Yeah, so we're working with Mass Development as the primary lender on the project. And the project has also been approved at a federal level and a state level for historic tax credits. So we've been applying each round for historic tax credits. And once the project's complete, that's when we'll submit for the tax credits. But it's been accepted, our round one has been accepted at least.
Okay.
So that's the current pieces put together for the project, as well as a grant from Mass Development.
So do you have those funds in place already?
Correct.
So what is give us an idea of the schedule for if this gets approved, when do we start seeing some action?
So the project is under construction currently. We started back in February of this year with a demo permit, and soon thereafter with a construction permit. Building's almost weather tight and hopefully soon completing the rough inspections. So looking at spring to early summer of 2024 is the goal, to have it stabilized or construction completed and working on leasing. So that's the rough.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to members of the council. Councilor Bedanza?
I have two questions, really. One is, tell me a little bit about the market for this kind of housing in this area, as well as, how does a project like this get built without the credits, without the tie? I mean, can you feasibly go into a building that's old and decrepit and actually make it work without some assistance? I know we had a project here on West Street that took 14 agencies to put back together.
Sure.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, of course. So starting with the market, this project fits very well with I believe what Leominster is looking for with quality market rate housing, as well as what we've been able to create at 41 and 45 Summer is kind of some validation to it. We've finished those projects between 2020 and 2022, and with a similar quality of renovation, similar size range between studios and two beds. So we'll be right in the middle. And we've been at full occupancy, more or less, since lease up with those properties, and see continued demand for quality, market rate housing in Leominster. And then speaking to the credit piece, these projects, the short answer is no, they don't get done without support from a lot of various communities and state level. The only way we've been able to make these projects work is by bringing funding from the federal level to state level, with historic tax credits, help from the city with the TIE on the previous two projects, as well as HDIP credits. Unfortunately, they weren't available for this project, which we were uncertain we were going to be able to proceed. But thankfully, we were awarded a grant from Mass Development, which basically filled in the gap of the HDIPs, and why we're proceeding now with the TIE only, I guess is what it's called, allowing us to proceed with the TIE without the HDIP component. But ultimately, it doesn't come together without all of this.
Can you tell us what's preserved historically in the building?
Sure. Yeah. So we're working with Epsilon, who is a historic, they're a consultant that helps us navigate that process. We've worked with now on 5 or 6 projects, and so they help us work with the state and the National Park Service, and they look at different aspects of the building. Predominantly, it's the exterior as well as certain features that were existing, like trim on the interior doors. So really all of the exterior will be restored in a historically appropriate manner. Windows, siding, doors, all like heating units will be on the roof and not be able to be seen. And on the interior, leaving ceilings exposed, leaving exposed beams. There was an existing lift in the building, working on keeping that exposed and identifying that with all the cables and a couple other small features. But
Madam Chair, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much. So, in terms of market rates, what are you projecting for? You have 1-bedroom and studios in this building, correct?
correct, it's 3 studios and 14 one-bedroom units. So the studios, without looking it up, piece of paper off the top of my head, I think they were projected at 12 to 1,300. And the one beds, I think, were maybe 1,500. But put asterisks next to that without looking at the projections, not in front of me. But
okay, yeah,
that's roughly.
What are the rents currently on Summer Street?
So for the studios, they're a bit smaller, around 1,100. And some of the one beds are between 1,400 and 1,600 a month. For 45 Summer, it's predominantly 2 beds with some 1 beds. And those range between 14 and 2,000.
And had you given any thought to providing more affordable housing as part of the project?
So for this project, the feedback we've predominantly received from Leominster is they've been looking for more market rate housing, and to make this project work, even with all of these different credits and support, we've had to go with market rate housing ultimately. And the HDIP program specifically, how we've worked with that program, they've looked for market rate housing specifically, and how we've designed these projects, and the size of them as well.
Right. It seems like a really narrow market though, because 1 bedrooms. I mean, did you think about maybe having fewer units, but larger units, maybe 2 bedroom and maybe a couple of 3 bedroom apartments?
So I guess over the 3 buildings we've done, we've varied sizes. So 41 Summers predominantly studios, 45 Summers predominantly 2 beds. This will be predominantly 1 bed. So we're trying to provide a range of housing unit sizes, but didn't put any.
Can you tell me what's the total value of all the credits for this project, including the TIE that you're asking for from us?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, to be honest. The credits are based off the qualified property expenses ultimately that you submit at the end of the project. So it's a little bit subjective at this point until the project's fully finalized. The credits will be, including the TIE, I think it'll be closer to like $1.5 million in credits.
And what's the total cost? What's your building cost?
Yeah, so the construction has been originally budgeted around $3 million to do all this, and then there's obviously a bunch of soft costs and additional costs that go into the project above that.
Alrighty, thank you.
Councilor Angelini?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. Is this a traditional way you go about this process? I mean, it seems to me, if you're already spending grant money that you receive from other agencies, it seems like an awkward time to be coming in looking for tax relief, because if we were to deny you, you're already committed funding from grants into this building, what would happen?
Yeah, so I guess the reason for why we're so delayed is we were first waiting for the TIE to be tied with the HDIP program. And so we were told we couldn't apply for a TIE only unless we were ready to forego the HDIP piece of the project. So this process was started. I don't have the original date. Do you remember when we first contacted?
Yeah, it was, I believe it was the fall of 2021 that you had the idea to move forward with this project.
So we did contact Leominster very early on in the process, and we're working with you guys pretty early on and notified you that we were looking to apply for these credits. And then we were on hold on how to proceed unless, waiting for HDIPs to be approved at the state level, which ultimately it took too long for us to continue waiting. And we had to proceed with construction to move it forward. And that's when we re-engaged on the TIE to move that forward. And this has been in the works for, I would say, for the length of the construction process of working to get to this point.
So what happens if we were to deny this? What happens?
Yeah, so it's tied. I mean, nothing good ultimately. To be honest, in all of the financing that's been approved with mass development, it's been factored in that the HDIP would be, the TIE would be a part of the project. So their financing is based off the TIE. So it basically would mean that the initial project wouldn't work to service the debt that mass development provided.
Right. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay, Council Freedom?
What year are you into with the Summer Street project?
Which one? Which Summer Street project?
The 41, 40, 45?
Yeah, they were completed in different phases. 45 Summer was completed in, I believe, 2020, where the CO was received, and 41 Summer.
Just a ballpark.
2022. I think.
Okay, and how many years was that one for? 10? That total of 10 years for an incentive?
The TIE, I believe it's 7 years. Is that right?
This one's up.
I think they're all 7.
Okay. I just want to, I think somewhere along the line, somebody said tax exemption, and I want to make it clear, it's not an exemption, it's an incentive program. I don't think you're exempt from the taxes. I think is a program that you're working towards narrowing it down. I mean, I'm supportive of the fact that building is old and it's not far from a bus line that people can get to. And commuter rails not far. I think Summer Street's worked out well. So, I think it's a good project for that building. I don't think we've had many incentives fail, and we're protected if it does. So, I think that's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Frida. Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Yep, thank you very much. I'm looking here at the agreement, and it is a tax exemption. It's tax increment exemption agreement, and the formula, which lays out the schedule for the 7 years, is the tax exemption formula. So, and the agreement says the agreement calls for an exemption from taxation specifically on the increased value of real estate property as a result of the redevelopment as follows in the table shown below. So what did you pay for the property? Because this is only on the difference, right? That it ends up being assessed at.
Purchased for
$300,000. And what's it going to be? And what's it worth? I mean, what are you basing? I guess what are you basing the project on in terms of the value at the end of it?
It's being assessed at 1.6 million is the new valuation that assessed on.
Right. So the tax exemption that the city is looking at giving us on the difference between the 300,000 and the 1.6 million. So it's basically on 1.3 million. So
So I guess the city has it currently assessed at little over 100,000. So the exemption would be on roughly 1.5.
1.5.
million.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
And so just to clarify, so in year one, if this is granted, your project, and I looked at the numbers earlier, so you're looking about $23,000 in savings the first year, and then that will diminish in the years following. Right? Okay. Any other questions? Any other Counselor Brady?
Just a quick one. So without this, you're saying the project's not going to go forward?
So it's currently under construction and the financing is lined up. The issue will be once we get to stabilization and the loan is fully drawn. The debt service that the project has to hit will not hit to service the lender, basically, which is mass development. Because the projections that were used for the loan had incorporated a TIE that was originally provided by the city when we initially discussed the TIE early on in the project.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to thank both of you for coming. We're going to bring this up a little bit later in our meeting. You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to head out, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we had a 6:15 p.m. interview on C-24 with Rena Gagne, Madam Chairwoman.
Ms. Gagne, if you would come right up to the table. Ms. Gagne, my name is Pauline Cormier. I'm the Ward 2 Counselor and the Chairwoman of the Ways and Means Committee. Members of my committee, actually absent this evening, is Counselor Ardinger, but directly across from me, Sushalafo Zephyr, who is the third member of this committee. We want to welcome you.
Thank you.
And give you, just let me read this in. It's C-24. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the confirmation of the appointment of Rena Gagne to the position of Chief Assessor for the City of Leominster for a term of 3 years effective December 11th, 2023. So welcome, Ms. Gagne.
Thank you.
Please take this opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you look forward to in this position.
So I've worked for the, excuse me, the town of Chelmsford for the last 9 years. Previously, I've worked for Vision for 2 years. So I have about 11 years in the assessing field that I bring to the table. I have owned my own business. I taught preschool for several years in Groton. Just a lot of experience with Vision, which is the camera system that we use in Chelmsford and you use here in Leominster. I have years of experience with working with the public while owning my own business, as well as working for Chelmsford with taxpayers. That's about my work experience. On a personal note, I love the outdoors. I enjoyed working in the field when I worked with Vision. That's about it, I guess.
Okay. Are you from this area?
Yes.
Originally?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm originally from Winthrop, Massachusetts, but I lived in Groton for many years. And since I've lived in Fitchburg for 3 years.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started out in the town of Chelmsford?
Yes.
Did you start out entry level?
Entry level as the principal clerk. So entering deeds, working with excise, working with exemptions. So I have a lot of office experience. And 4 years ago, 2019, I was given the position as assistant assessor and data collector. So I do all the building permits. I do all the new growth, pick up new growth, both commercial. I also work with the chief assessor on the commercial side. But I've the last year and a half, I've done all the sketching, all the going out and measuring and making sure that the data is correct.
Okay.
So,
and can you tell us what certifications that you have? You mentioned one of the programs that the city uses.
So that's Vision, the camera system. So I've also taken my 101 course, the DOR course. I did take the, there's quite a few certification programs. I just recently took a two-day course last year, and it didn't come with a certification, but it was just a refresher course. So I have that. But I met your part-time clerk. I think your full-time clerk was on leave. And I met Rick Dearborn.
Is the size of the office and the staff, the support staff, comparable to what you have? About management. No, and you know, your experience managing people, because obviously that'll be part of the job.
Mhm.
Do you have any, I guess, what would be really different, I guess, in taking this new job? What would be different for you? What would be the challenges for you?
Well, the challenges would definitely be being the chief assessor opposed to being the assistant.
Sure.
Right now, I'm assisting with everything in the office. I do know the office in and out, but things like classification, it will be my first time doing classification.
Mhm.
That will be next year because I think you're all set for this year. And I'm coming on the 11th, which I think is your classification hearing. So, and managing the TIFs, I haven't done that myself, and I haven't done ATB case myself, or only mock ones. So those will be new challenges, but I look forward to it. I'm up for the challenge. I really enjoy taxpayers, and I have a a patience for them, you know, and it can be a very stressful, job, and I don't take things personal, or I try not to. So, I dealt with some very difficult taxpayers in Chelmsford, and just smile and, you know, do what we can for them.
All right. Well, look, thank you. I'm good.
Counselor Frida?
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? Are you an appraiser as well?
No, I am not.
Okay, so you haven't taken any of the appraisal
I haven't.
courses?
No.
So, but the assessing courses you've taken are
Yes.
pretty similar, and
As far as I understand,
you just don't have
it's a
to be,
different. It's
you're certified as opposed to being licensed. Kind of.
correct, and it's apples and oranges. Appraisers look for different things than assessors do.
Yeah, I'm an appraiser, so
Okay,
that's,
then
that's,
you know.
that's why. And you know, back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, we used to be in the assessor's office every
All the
day.
time.
You know, before computers, you know, gave us an opportunity to do it from the office. But I do have to say, you've come highly recommended, because I have talked to a few people that are familiar with your work, familiar with you.
Oh, good.
And gave you some pretty high marks. So, you know, Rich Dondero in that office is excellent. And he's got a great attitude with dealing with tax. And you're absolutely right. It's nothing worse than a taxpayer who is shocked when they look at their bill and they go right back, you know, call the council and then they go to the assessor, or vice versa, whichever way they go. But it is, it's also very stressful for the taxpayer when,
Of course,
you know, their taxes go up. So there needs to be some patience, and there needs to be some explanation as to how that tax got to that for that property. And it's kind of important to have that patience with them. So I'm happy to see you come on board. See a female in that office with some patience and some consideration and some qualifications. And I will assume that you're going to continue on your education and certifications and stay on top of things with because things change all the time in our industry. So
well, sure. And then we have changes with like solar fields, you know, and the solar on homes, and that you have to really go and
whole different animal. And you know, and some of the flooding issues.
Yes,
that's going to be major. If people are looking for abatements down the road when they get their tax bill, which is going to come out, you know, right after we have our next meeting and talk about our tax classification. So, you know, you need to be prepared for that, because that's going to be huge. But, you know, we had the ice storm. I mean, there are things that happen, and you need to be able to address those issues. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, we need to do them, and, you know, when we're doing mortgage appraising and how that affects the mortgage. So it affects the taxpayer the same way. So, again, welcome, and
thank you.
Happy to have you aboard.
Thank you, Councilor Frida. Councilor Cormier, I think I saw your hand up.
Thank you very much, and welcome. You know, as Councilor Frida was saying, usually it's right after the first of the year, people are getting their tax bills and they're not very happy about it, depending on how things shifted for them. And I always get, you know, one or two a year, and I've always sent them to the assessor's office, because that's, you know, ultimately who needs to look into it. And I must say that, you know, in the past, I never heard back from a constituent after hearing from them. So, you know, to have somebody that has the knowledge and the skills to break it all down and explain it, and, you know, have a good, calm demeanor about it is important. And I was just wondering if you could maybe give an example of something you dealt with, you know, and specifically in Chelmsford, to, you know, sort of how you dealt with a situation there.
So there's so many examples. When I first started, we had a taxpayer who came in who had 19 fireplaces on their property record card, which was clearly a mistake. So we were able to go out, you know, just to check the box, make that change. But some of those type of small issues are easy to fix. But then we have the taxpayer who the land was dropped on their property record card last year. Excuse me. And she came in, a woman, And she was very upset because her assessment went from 400,000 to 200,000. And her bill now is much cheaper than it was. So we had to deal with that and explain to her what had happened. And it was a glitch in the system. It wasn't anything that we did. But then I found two others that, going back and looking at some of the data, that it had happened to two other people. And then we had to change, send a supplemental bill out to them and explain to them why that happened. And then we've had the flip side where people have gotten some bills that were extremely high because of a data problem this year. For some reason, we've had a few data problems this year, and then have to make those adjustments. And just recently, some of those problems we can fix within the office immediately, but some of them they have to wait till January, depending on what type of issue it is. So one just particularly a month ago, gentleman came in and he had a high bill because there was a mistake in the data, and nothing that we did. For some reason, that glitch, that we were able to make the change, but I also sent him an application just in case I wasn't going to be following up on it, just to make sure that he had the opportunity to follow up on that with an abatement. And we'll take care of that internally, but just dealing with people and the problems. And there are some things that just come up. I've had some taxpayers who have come in very angry because of things that have happened, especially when we were doing the reval. A gentleman who was going to call the police on me, and because we had somebody go out to his property and his mother-in-law let them in. I just smiled, and so that's what we're doing. We send out as much information, letting people know what's coming up and that we're doing inspections. And now since COVID, things have changed a lot where inspections are a little bit harder to do. But if we give them the information before someone knocks on your door, or if we can give you the information with your tax bill of any issues that we've seen and changes, applications for abatements, it helps. And just to be patient with people.
And if any of us were to, talk to any coworkers of yours, what are some of the things you think they'd say about you? How would they describe you as, to work with?
The most probably the most patient person in the office. I don't get riled easily. If you rile me, you're really, then I take a step back, because I am pretty patient with taxpayers. And once in a while I have one that'll call you a name, a nasty name, and, just smile and let them vent and we move on. But they're very sad to see me going. Yeah. It's been a tight office for 9 years. And the last 4 years, we have one new employee. Our previous assistant, she retired, and somebody else came on board, and they know that it's best for me, so they're happy for me, but they hate to see me go. But I think they would say I'm very patient and thorough. I'm not one to just make quick changes without making sure that the data is correct. And data is important in our field. It's all about the data and getting it right and making sure that the tax bills go out as accurate as possible and that everything is fair and equitable to taxpayers.
Right.
And I think with that in mind, we do a better job in our office.
Good. Sounds good. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And, I'm sure you'll do well. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Councilor Frida?
A quick question, Madam Chair. Thanks. What's your opinion of vision technology?
I've worked, that's probably not a fair question because I've worked for them.
If you work there.
Yeah, I worked for them, and I think it's a very well put together camera system. They have a great support staff. So if I have a problem, I'm just an email away or a phone call away. They get right back to immediately. And they have wonderful webinars that you can go in, and for instance, sometimes the reports are a little bit funky to work with. You have to have certain fields, no matter what report you work with. And if they don't work, you can just email them or call them and they tell us exactly how to get that working correctly. So I really like vision. I would like that the people.
There are some bad ones out there that you can't even make heads or tails out of when you're
That's
trying
correct.
to get some information. So.
But there's been very few problems. Like I said, this year we had 3 or 4, and I don't know whether it was something that was out of our control. As far as we know, it's it was out of our control. It was glitches, but there's 4 of us using that program every day. So,
Well, when you look at some of the neighboring communities and some of the things that have happened in those towns with that technology, and then they will let go, and then other things were done, and now there's lawsuits everywhere. So it changes. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm going to ask you, is it Gagne? Gagne?
Gagne is correct, but everybody says Gagne, so I go with
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. So, Ms. Gagne, thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. It was a pleasure to meet you. I will check with the president a little bit later on our agenda here and see if we can move this up. You're welcome to stay with us, or I'm sure the clerk can inform you, but we'll try to move it up so you don't have to stay.
Thank you. It was nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we had a public hearing that was set for 6:45 PM for legal affairs. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The public hearing of the Legal Affairs Committee. My name is Peter Angelini, Chairman. I'm joined by second member Legal Affairs, the Ward 4 Councilor Mark Bedanza and the at-large Councilor Todd Deacon. Petition 21-24, Mark C. Bedanza, Ward 4 Councilor. Request to amend the City of Leominster Revised Ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 13-77, entitled Stop Signs, by inserting Fairfield Street against westbound drivers at the intersection of Cumberland Road. Before I turn this over to the petitioner, we did ask for a referral from the Traffic Division, Leominster Police Department. Sergeant Greg Robichaud did respond. He said, I have no opposition to this. It's an appropriate place for a stop sign. Thank you, Sergeant Robichaud, Leominster Traffic. So at this time, over to the petitioner, Councilor Bedanza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got contacted by a constituent that lives in that neighborhood relative to this. I think it's the only intersection in the neighborhood that doesn't have a stop sign. So I petitioned it, and as you indicated, the sergeant looked at it and found it an appropriate place for a stop sign, and that's pretty much the entire story.
Councilor Deegan?
I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Anyone else in the council? All right, seeing none, is there anyone in the public this evening that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 21-24? The second time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 21-24? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 21-24? Seeing none, Mr. President, I declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you very much. Moving on to, still have about 7 minutes before we are obligated to start our meeting. We have a 12-24 on public service. Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. 12-24. This is a public hearing on 12-24. My name is Susan Shalafer Zephyr, chairperson of the Public Service Committee, along with Council Brady, Councilor Claire Frieda. And we do have a person here from National Grid. That's great. I'll read this for the public hearing. Massachusetts Electric Company, doing business as National Grid, requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures, along and across the following public way. West Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on West Street at a point approximately 145 feet east of the center line of the intersection of School Street and continuing approximately 18 feet in a north direction. Install one new pole approximately 18 feet. Install new duct bank approximately 120 feet from MI-122 to pole number 1 and new pole number 2-1. Wherefore it prays that after due notice and hearing is provided by law, it be granted a location for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith, marked West Street, Leominster, Massachusetts, number 305 52208, September 11th, 2023. So could you state your name, sir, please?
My name is Connor Reynolds on behalf of National Grid.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Connor Reynolds on behalf of National Grid.
Okay, good. Yeah. Can you just talk about this and tell us exactly what you're doing? Please.
So this petition is a part of a downtown modernization, as we've been calling it. The electrical infrastructure in the downtown is quite outdated, and we're adding capacity by pulling larger conductor. This project in particular is for one pole on West Street, as well as some conduit to this new pole and the existing pole that's there, as well as conduit on Water Street to a manhole, from manhole to manhole from on Water Street.
And have you been in touch with the DPW and the fire department?
This petition doesn't pertain to the fire department as much as the next one.
Okay.
But there was another meeting with the DPW. Forgive me, I don't have the date. It was last week though, last Tuesday. And we did receive a list of requirements that the DPW has laid out for us.
Great. Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions. Councilor Brady?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Peter? I'm good. Okay. Anybody on the council have any questions for the National Grid? Okay, good. So you did get a copy of the letter from the DPW. Those conditions will be part of what we discuss a little bit later on when we vote on this, and those will be part of the record. So,
Yep.
Okay.
When our civil contractor gets goes for the permit for it, there will be, and they'll be held to those requirements.
Okay. All right. Great. Just want to confirm that. Okay, very good. So seeing that there are no further questions on 12-24, I will, got to go to the public. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this petition 12-24? Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition or in favor? And for a third and final time, is there anybody who'd like to speak on this petition? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed.
Okay, and we have another one, which was scheduled for 6:49 p.m. on 11-24. We still have a few minutes. If you want to at least read that one, and then we'll see what we are for time.
So this is a petition on 11-24. Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid of North Andover, Massachusetts, that it desires to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures under and across the public way or ways hereinafter named. Wherefore prays that after due notice and hearing is provided by law, it be granted permission to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits, together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity, said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Church Street and West Street, Leominster, Massachusetts. The following are the streets and highways referred to: Plan number 305-52233, Church Street and West Street. National Grid to install plus or minus 650 feet from manhole number 19 West Street to manhole number 17 Church Street. So this is a continuation of the public hearing that we had at our last meeting, sir. Could you just talk a little bit about that as well?
So this is an additional portion of the project for the downtown modernization. It is an additional conduit and manhole in the public right of way. The manholes that are currently on Church Street are, using the term manhole would be generous. So we're adding additional conduit and a manhole for the larger conductor that we are required to pull. And this was included in the DPW meeting with, along with the requirements set out for the permit. This is in front of the fire station. Part of the DPW requirements were that we give 72-hour notice.
That's right.
Yep.
And that comes from the Leominster Fire Department. Okay, good. So you're aware of that. And
Yep.
Okay. I know we did get a referral back. I can't find I can't find that paper. Have it. So the DPW, I think, is fine with the plan, with those stipulations, as is the fire department with that 72-hour notice.
Yes, that would be my understanding as well.
Okay, good. Does Council Brady, do you have any questions? You don't? You're good. Frida? Okay. Anyone on the council have any questions from Mr. Reynolds? Okay, from National Grid. Now I will go to the public. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak either in support of or in opposition to 11-24? For the second time, is there anybody in the public who would like to speak either in support of or in opposition? For a third and final time, is there anybody who would like to speak in support of or in opposition to 11-24? All right. Seeing those questions from the city council, through the do you get that referral letter? I just want to make sure. Oh, okay, good, because I couldn't.
With tonight, it was emailed to us previously.
Right, I know, I saw it.
It was distributed tonight.
I saw it. I just can't find it, so I just wanted to double check that, and I will.
Papers you got tonight.
Right, no, it's not here. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so given that there are no further questions, I will declare this public hearing closed.
Okay, thank you very much. And the time is now 7 p.m. So I'm now going to call the meeting for the Leominster City Council for November 27th, 2023 to order. Will you all please stand and join me for a salute to the flag? I will now take a roll call of the honorable members of the City Council, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Present.
Councilor Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Brady.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Deacon.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
I am present. There are 8 members present this evening. Does the Vice President have any records to approve this evening?
Mr. President, I'd asked that we keep the minutes from the last meeting open till the next meeting. There's still some work to be done on those. And just a reminder to any counselors, if you have any additions or subtractions, to let us know a week prior to the meeting so we can get those done.
Okay, but so the last meeting, just to be clear, was from 2 weeks ago, which was November 13th. Those are not ready. What about October 23rd?
October 23rd records should be ready.
They are good.
Yes.
Everybody find them to be in order, October 23rd. Okay, if there's no objections then for the October 23rd, 2023 minutes, we will place those on file and have the other minutes ready for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President.
This time I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into recess so we can continue. Councilor Frida, seconded. Councilor Cormier, all those in favor of going to recess signify in usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0. We now stand in recess. And Madam Chairwoman of Public Service, I believe we have a hearing that was supposed to take place at 6:50, 19-24.
Petition 19-24, Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid, requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Whitney Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Whitney Street, beginning at a point approximately 205 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Water Street and continuing approximately 20 feet in a west direction. Install one pole to provide service for parking lot chargers. Location approximately as shown on plan attached. Wherefore prays that after due notice and hearing is provided by law, it be granted a location for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed here with marked Whitney Street, Leominster, Massachusetts. Number 307-41527, dated October 11th, 2023. Could you give a little bit of an explanation on this, please?
So this is a poll for a gate service as well as a couple of car chargers over at the Whitney Carriage Apartments. I believe they rebranded to something else. I can't remember off the top of my head. The Falls. It's just one pole coming across the street, and they're gonna put conduit to the pole for their car chargers and the gate control as well.
So is it on private property? It's not. No,
The
it's on
car
the street.
chargers will be
Got
on
it.
private property,
That's
but
right.
the pole will be within the public right away.
Okay. All right. Councilor Brady, any questions?
No, I think with the requirements that you need for all the charges, this is going to be a common occurrence.
Counselor Frida? Okay. I have not seen a referral back from either the DPW or the wire inspector. No, we don't have anything back. Okay. Is there anybody else on the council who has questions about this or a question? No? Okay. The public, is there anybody in the public who has any questions about petition 19-24? For the second time, is there anybody who has any questions for National Grid on petition 1924? Third and final time, is there anybody who has any questions or would like to speak in opposition or favor? Seeing nobody public, given that the DPW and the wire referrals we still don't have, I'm going to keep this public hearing open.
Is there, it's just one pole.
Sometimes the DPW will weigh in if they don't like the location of the pole. They might ask you to move it. So I'm not, comfortable I'm not comfortable recommending that we adopt this tonight or pass this tonight without their recommendation. We do have another one that somebody from National Grid is coming back for at our next meeting.
It would be me.
Oh,
I'm just
you're coming back.
Yeah. Is it possible for I'm the most of the projects coming from Leominster are of my design. Is it possible for me to reach out to DPW and the wire inspector prior to meetings and
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Routinely, anything like this will be referred to the DPW and the wire inspector, sometimes to the fire department.
So normally for the larger projects, like the ones on Church Street and West Street, we do send to the DPW prior to the hearing.
Okay.
But for polls and stuff like that, we don't normally do.
Okay. Even for routine things, you may want to, if it's, because sometimes they do come back infrequently, but sometimes they do. So that's why we.
I understand.
All right. Okay, so I will keep the public hearing open.
I would be, can you hear, there you go. We would be looking at December 11th, 2023, and to make it bundled and more convenient would be 6:49 p.m.
6:49 p.m. Alrighty. Thank you. No.
Great. Okay, so at this point, that is all for the public hearings. I'm going to move on to the public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on any matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone, state their formal name and address along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. No one has formally signed up. But I will ask, would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? If so, please come to the microphone at this table. Once again, would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? And for the third and final time, would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? Seeing none, I declare the public forum closed, and the council will now stand back in session, and we will move into the regular meeting. Beginning with communications from the mayor, beginning with C-26, Madam Clerk.
C-26, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that the annual tax classification hearing be scheduled for December 11th, 2023, for the purpose of setting the annual factor used for fiscal year 2024.
C-26 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
C-26 has been given regular course. C-27.
C-27, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request that an appropriation of $250,000 be made to the Police Department Emergency Overtime Account, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund.
C-27 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Once again, first time on the calendar, regular course.
C-27 has been given regular course. C-28.
C-28, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $500,000 be made to the Flood Fund, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund.
And C-28 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course.
C-28 has been given regular course. C-29.
C-29, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointment of Bonnie Budd to the Disability Commission, term to expire 4/15/2026.
And C-29 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, and we will need to schedule an interview, preferably at the next council meeting, December 12th. Oh, it's 6:20. I'm sorry. You already have it in there.
December 11th.
December 11th.
6:20 PM.
Early,
Oh, okay, so 20, okay.
around 6:20 right now.
Okay, so 6:20, December 11th at 6:20. And confirm that with the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, so C-29 has been given regular course. We have two items under suspension of the rules. The mayor's office did not get these on the agenda in time due to the early deadline for the agenda because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So at this point, we have two suspensions of the rules, C-30, and Madam Clerk, I'll ask you to read that.
C-30, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that an appropriation of $534,100 be made to the Park State Grant Fund, the same to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund.
Okay, all those in favor of suspending the rules on C-30 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the rules have been suspended on C-30. And Mr. Chairman of Finance, this is referred to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
And C-30 has been given regular course. C-31.
C-31, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $875,000 be made to the Park State Grant Fund, the same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund.
Okay, all those in favor of suspending the rules on C-31 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the rules have been suspended on C-31, and this likewise will also be referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, regular course.
And C-31 has also been given regular course. Moving in.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilor Frida.
Through the chair to the finance chair, I know it's regular course. There's a lot of questions on this, so we're gonna have some background information on it.
We've asked for some information already. Is there anything else additional that you think of next days?
I think there's gonna be a big, in my opinion, there'll be a substantial discussion.
Well, I understand, but you want information, right? So there's been a map requested.
I think we got a copy of the plan today. I think we need to know what the logic is behind purchasing this. I know it's labeled open space, but I think there's a lot of questions. I just wanted to be sure that we were gonna have that opportunity.
Well, of course,
Questions.
of course.
Also, we have no petitions, no other petitions first time on the agenda, so we get into matters before the city council, beginning with a financial report. Mr. Chairman, you are ready to report?
Yeah, Mr. President, we started the fiscal year on July 1st with a balance in the stable account of $20,608,209. We've added interest over the course of the year of $174,418 for a resulting balance of $21,782,627. We've expended a total of or plan to expend $3,424,100, which would leave a resulting balance of $18,358,527, and that is the financial report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none. Moving on to the one and only item under finance, which is C-23. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-23, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $28,352 be made to the Department of Public Works Highway Expense Account. Same amount to be transferred from the Capital Stabilization Fund. This is really broken down into two items that were requested by the DPW. One is for highway expense office equipment. The other one is highway expense building and grounds. There was a letter from the DPW director. This appropriation will be used for the purchase and installation of new time clocks at the DPW. That was the first amount of $13,460. Our existing time clock management company recently sold. We are being required to migrate to new company's equipment. The second request would be to add 4 high-resolution security cameras on the exterior of the DPW building aimed at the dumpsters. We have experienced a vast increase in illegal dumping on weekends and overnight. These cameras will allow us to see perpetrators and their vehicle license plate numbers so that we can take appropriate action to combat the issue. So it'd be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-23. I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Okay, Counselor, I don't know which one is first and second. Counselor
Angelini.
Cormier,
I agree.
Counselor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-23. Is there any discussion? See none. Oh, Council.
Just a quick question. I don't know if you can answer that or not. The cameras they're going to put in, is that going to be tied in to the police fire, the new dispatch center, or is this going to be a separate?
I don't know the answer to the question.
All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-23 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, C-23 has been granted as the chairman of an order.
I do, Mr. President, order that the sum of $28,352 be appropriated to the Department of Public Works Highway Expense Account, same to be transferred from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order signify by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the order for C-23 has been adopted. And I apologize, we had promised Mrs. Gagne that we were going to make her to the top of the calendar, but I guess I forgot we got that one finance item in. So at this point, I will ask the chairwoman of Ways and Means if she's ready to report on C-24.
I am, Mr. President. Thank you. We had the pleasure this evening of meeting and interviewing Rena Gagne. I think that we had some very interesting talk. I think that the city of Leominster is going to have the benefit of her, the years that she has spent in the Chelmsford assessor's office. I think we would be very lucky to have her. She has plenty of experience, plenty of responsibilities. This is going to be a step up from her, from going from an assistant to a chief assessor. I look forward to working with her. I will give one warning to her, is that the city of Leominster and City Hall in particular, and all its departments, always have a very open door policy. And our citizens are known to stop by on a regular basis. So just to give you a fair warning there. But it would be my position to recommend and to confirm the position of chief assessor for the city of Leominster, and extend that out to Ms. Gagne. And I would ask you to check with the members of my committee.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
I agree.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation by Ways and Means to confirm the appointment and grant C-24. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
As I mentioned earlier, I did talk to a couple of people that are familiar with Ms. Gagne, and she came highly recommended. I'm very happy with her knowledge of vision solutions. Field cards are very important when people are questioning their property. I think they need to be able to see very clearly what their property looks like in City Hall. And I'm very happy with her answers tonight and happy to see her come aboard. So I'm supportive.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I am going to do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida. And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. Ms. Gagne, you did. Congratulations. City Clerk, before you leave, is going to swear you in very quickly, so you will totally be all ready to go. You will be all official.
You can come raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as Chief Assessor for the City of Leominster?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and since we are on Ways and Means, and there's one other item, and there is a gentleman that needs to drive back to, I believe, Arlington tonight. I will ask that we have you, Madam Chairwoman of Ways and Means, handle C-25 now as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. C-25 originally came from the mayor's office, from Dean Mazzarella. Request your vote to support by resolution for Cougar Capital Management to be located at 34 Tremaine Street in Leominster, Mass. And there's, I believe we have, do I need to read it? Should I read in the recommendation letter?
Yes, or summarize it thoroughly.
Okay. So we did receive a letter from the mayor's office, the HDIP coordinator, Department of Housing and Community Development, which basically said, in regards to the development that'll be at 35 Tremaine Street, that they are in support of this, and the writing to confirm that they support the proposed development at 35 Tremaine, writing to confirm that I certify this project is a housing development incentive program, and request that the project be approved as an HD project as it will increase residential growth, diversify the housing supply, and support economic development and promote stabilization in this zone. As we heard earlier from Ms. Curtis and from Ian, and I'm sorry, your last name's not coming to me, from Cougar Development, this is a project that's been in place. It's very important to the community to continue with this project. It's been a long road for them. I would point out that in my ward, the 2 Summer Street properties that were done by this organization were done very well. They're been at full capacity. It's been a benefit to the community, to the neighborhood. There's built in with this HDIP, the tax increment exemption agreement. We've done this in the past. It's been successful in the past. We have built-in protections to the city in case that something goes wrong with the project. It would be my position to support this agreement. And Mr. President, I would ask you to check with other members of my committee.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Thank you. I understand the need for more housing, and I'm a strong proponent of additional housing. I know that we need more housing in Leominster, and I certainly believe that we need more affordable housing. I don't have a problem with market rate rentals, and I would love the project if it did have a component of affordable units built in. But given that this is, 14 units or 17 units, 14 one-bedroom and 3 studio apartments, I just don't see I don't see this really addressing any kind of housing problem that we have here in Leominster. We will certainly attract people probably from other places further east where market rates are even higher. So again, if this had some component of affordable housing, I'd be happy to support it. But I'm not comfortable giving tax exemptions to projects where I don't really see a benefit back to the city. So I'm not in support of it.
Okay, so we have a split decision from the 2 people of the committee that are here. Do we have another recommendation from the floor on what to do with C-25? Council Bonanza.
I'd lend my support to it.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Council Frida? Okay, so the recommendation from the floor is to grant C-25. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Councilor Angelini, I apologize. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say briefly, I questioned the gentleman from Cougar earlier this evening. I would have certainly appreciated being the council were brought into this process a little earlier, before funds have been expended. But it boils down to I asked myself, what would my position be if we were brought into this initially, and I would be supportive of it. So I will vote accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Council Bonanza.
Yeah, I fully understand that, housing of all sorts is in short supply, including market rate housing, especially for young people. And my guess is that a lot of these apartments would be rented by young people. It's a historic building. It's in a historic area. There's another historic asset that the city has, which of course is the Pine Grove Burial Ground, which is nearby. Having that building, which has sat idle so long, put to a good use by a company with a proven track record in the city, all adds up for me to support this evening, and that's why I want to move forward with it.
Okay, so is it Council Brady?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I agree with you that we should have probably gotten a lot more information on this earlier, because I tend to side with you on that. That this project, it's a good project, but not having any figures and just had them verbalized at 12th hour. I don't know. I just don't understand a process where it would be assumed that they're getting this and their financing is based on that. I just have to question that process. I absolutely want to support this. Like you said, it's a great use for good property. But I think just in the future, perhaps the Office of Economic Development can tell, and maybe we can learn from this. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to grant C-25. All those in favor of granting C-25 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 6-2. C-25 is granted. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we are going to jump back to page 6, items under public service, 11-24. Madam Chairwoman, are you ready to report?
Yes, this is an 11-24, Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid of North Andover, Massachusetts, that it desires to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting ways. We had this is a plan that was filed with the for Church and West Street in Leominster. We had a public hearing earlier this evening. We've had prior public hearings. Representative from National Grid is here, and I do have the. We were waiting for referrals back from the DPW, and I'd like to read this into the record. So the letter is dated September 26, 2023, regarding petition 11-24. Dear Caitlin, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed the petition to install duct banks in West Street and Church Street and offers the following comments. The DPW approves the position with the following conditions. 1. Sidewalk repair shall consist of full replacement of all disturbed panels with cement concrete. Granite curbing is to be restored as necessary. 2. Pavement trench repair on West Street and Colburn Court shall consist of flowable fill and utilize the grind and inlay method of pavement repair. 3. Pavement trench repair on Church Street shall consist of flowable fill and repaving from the center line to the gutter. 4. Restore any disturbed rumble strips, pavement markings, and crosswalks. 5. Provide traffic management plans for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic on Church Street. 6. Test pits shall be dug at the proposed location of the manhole in Colburn Court to determine the location and depth of the sewer and water mains. Contact the DPW if there are any potential conflicts. 7. Is electric manhole number 18 abandoned? If so, it needs to be removed. 8. National Grid's contractor will be required to post a $25,000 bond to cover the sidewalk and road restoration. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. So the representative here this evening, Mr. Reynolds, assured us that National Grid has seen this letter back from the DPW and that all of these conditions will be met for this project. So my recommendation would be to grant 11-24, and I would ask that you poll my committee.
Council Frida. Council Brady. Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Public Service Committee to grant 11-24. Is there any discussion? Councilor Angelini.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, if I may, I think it would be helpful if we have a letter like that, we introduce it during the public hearing. So if there's anyone here in attendance, they have an opportunity to comment on the. So in the future, that's all I'm suggesting. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm supportive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, but Danza, did I see your hand as well?
You did. I just wanted to make sure that we are voting on that with a conditioned on that letter.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, the recommendation once again of public service was to grant 11-24 with the conditions that are on the letter from the DPW dated. What's the date on that? Is it dated?
September 26, 2023.
Okay. All those in favor of granting 11-24 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0. 11-24 has been granted with those conditions. Moving on to 12-24.
12-24, Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid and Verizon New England, Inc. request permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. West Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on West Street, beginning at a point approximately 145 feet east of the center line of the intersection of School Street and continuing approximately 18 feet in a north direction. Install one new pole approximately 18 feet. Install new duct bank approximately 120 feet from manhole number 22 to pole number 1 and new pole number 2-1. So we had a public hearing earlier this evening. Representative from National Grid was here to answer questions, and we were waiting for the DPW, and we do have a letter from the DPW that I will read into the record. This letter is dated November 21st, 2023. It was sent to Ms. Caitlin Huffman, City Clerk. Dear Caitlin, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed the petition to install a pole and duct bank on and in West Street and offers the following comments. The DPW approves the petition with the following conditions. Sidewalk repair shall consist, number 1, sidewalk repair shall consist of full replacement of all disturbed panels. Panel replacement shall begin near light pole number 7 and extend to pole number 1. Number 2, pavement trench repair shall consist of flowable fill and utilize the grind and inlay method of pavement repair. Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine, DPW Director. So again, earlier this evening, we had the representative of National Grid. We had forwarded, the city clerk's office had forwarded these two letters as soon as we had received them. National Grid did receive the letters. They're aware of these conditions. The gentleman earlier attested to that. So it would be my recommendation, we did close the public hearing. It would be my recommendation that we approve 12-24, and I would appreciate it if you'd poll my committee.
Councilor Frida. Councilor Brady.
I agree.
Okay, so sorry. With those conditions.
With those conditions.
With those conditions as read. Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Public Service Committee to grant 12-24 with all of those conditions as read. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 12-24 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0. This has also been granted with those conditions. Moving on to 19-24.
19-24, Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Whitney Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Whitney Street beginning at a point approximately 205 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Water Street and continuing approximately 20 feet in the west direction. Install one pole to provide service for parking lot chargers. We had our public hearing earlier this evening. We are waiting for recommendations back from the DPW. And the wire inspector. So the public hearing was left open. So my recommendation at this point would be for further time. And I ask that you poll my committee.
So further time, and we're going to continue this till December 11th at 6:49 p.m. Councilor Frida. Councilor Brady.
I agree with that.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of Public Service to give further time to 19-24 and to continue the public hearing to December 11th, 2023 at 6:49 p.m. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of further time in the public hearing signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0. This has been given further time, and that public hearing has been established. Moving on to 23-24, Madam Chairwoman, you ready to report?
23-24, Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Hamilton Street, National Grid to install one jointly owned pole on Hamilton Street, beginning at a point approximately 90 feet east of the center line of the intersection of North Main Street and continuing approximately 35 feet in a south direction. Install one pole on Hamilton Street to accommodate Mass DOT intersection project. Location approximately shown on plan attached. Wherefore, it prays that after due notice and hearing is provided by law, it be granted a location for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires, together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Hamilton Street, Leominster, Massachusetts, number 30805-209, October 17th, 2023. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. We have a public hearing scheduled for December 11th, 2023 at 6:50 p.m. And we are waiting for DPW and wire inspector referrals. So my recommendation would be for further time, and I'd ask that you poll my committee.
Councilor Frida? Councilor Brady?
I agree.
So you've heard the unanimous recommendation of Public Service to give 23-24 further time.
And, excuse me,
Yeah.
we do need to vote on the public hearing, correct?
That was already established
We
at the
already
last
established
meeting.
that, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I asked her the same question prior to, yeah. And Madam Clerk, and for the record, I do need to abstain. This piece of equipment is partially owned by my employer. All those in favor of giving further time to 23-24, please signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 7-0. Further time has been given. Moving on to items into legal affairs, beginning with 22-24. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
Excuse me, Mr.
President.
I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Okay. Okay, Councilor.
Continue. 22-24, Bavenzi and Donovan, attorneys at law, and 10 registered voters request a zoning change at 435 Lancaster Street, parcel 433-1. Mr. President, we are still waiting for a referral back from the planning board on this. There is a public hearing scheduled for December 11th, 2023 at 6:45 p.m.
The planning board is scheduled to see this matter on December 4th.
So it would be my request that we give this further time, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Bonanza
I'm okay with that.
and Councilor Deakin.
I'm in agreement.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation to give 22-24 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 7-0. This has been given further time. Moving on to 20-24.
Thank you, Mr. President. 20-24, it's Aaron Kennedy, Chief of Police, City of Leominster. Request Section 8G. City or town which accepts this section may enter into an agreement with another city, town, or other cities and towns, including cities and towns and states contiguous to the Commonwealth, to provide mutual aid programs for police departments to increase the capability of such departments to protect the lives, safety, and property of the people in the area designated in the agreement. Said agreement may include the furnishing of personal services, supplies, materials, contractual services, and equipment when the resources normally available to any municipality in the agreement are not sufficient to cope with a situation which requires police action. When providing such mutual aid, police officers shall have all the immunities and powers granted to them in the municipalities that employ them, including but not limited to, powers of arrest while in transit to, returning from, and during a mutual aid response for another city or town. A participating police officer shall maintain the right of indemnification granted by law or by his home city or town, or both, for all claims arising out of any action within the scope of his employment in accordance with a valid mutual aid agreement. Mutual aid agreement may provide for methods of activation, requesting, and responding to mutual aid requests. The agreement may also address issues such as pay and benefits for officers, insurance, indemnification, injury compensation, and other operational matters related to police services provided for mutual aid response. Nothing in this paragraph shall be construed to expand or otherwise modify existing police powers as provided by law or any existing mutual aid agreement, or both. Mr. President, as you're aware, we had a informational hearing here early this evening. Chief Kennedy and Captain Freyer, I thought, made a very impassioned presentation. I fully support the department's move forward towards accreditation, and in that spirit, I recommend that we grant petition 20-24, and I ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, Counselor Bedanza
I'm in favor.
and Counselor Deacon.
In agreement.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 20-24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 20-24 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0. 20-24 has been granted. Moving on to 21-24.
Thank you, Mr. President. 21-24. Mark C. Bedanza, Ward 4 Councilor. Request to amend the City of Leominster Revised Ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 13-77, entitled Stop Signs, by inserting Fairfield Street against westbound drivers at the intersection of Cumberland Road. Once again, Mr. President, we had a public hearing earlier this evening. We had a positive recommendation from Sergeant Robichaud of the Leominster Traffic Division. It would be my recommendation to grant petition 21-24, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Bedanza.
I'm in favor.
Counselor Deacon.
In favor.
Of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 21-24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 21-24 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 8-0, 21-24 has been granted. Both of the items under Ways and Means have already been dealt with. We have one item under new business, which is the first reading of an ordinance. Mr. Chairman of Legal Affairs, are you ready to report?
I certainly am, Mr. President. This is formally petition 17-24. First reading of an ordinance. In the year 2023, an ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34 of the revised ordinances entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Adam Street, south side, for 25 feet east of the driveway at 98 Adam Street and 25 feet west of the driveway at 98 Adam Street. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the first reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, Counselor Bedanza
I'm in favor.
and Counselor Deacon.
In agreement.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs to adopt the first reading of this ordinance. Is there any discussion? We'll do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Counselor Bedanza.
Yay?
Counselor Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Angelini.
Yay.
Counselor Brady.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Deacon.
Yay.
Counselor Frida. Says yay by a vote of 8-0. The first reading of this adopted. Any other new business? Seeing none, we have a couple of second readings of an ordinance business. 7-24. Are you ready to report, Chairman of Legal Affairs?
I certainly am, Mr. President. Petition, this is formally petition 7-24. This is the second reading of an ordinance. In the year 2023, an ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinance entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Section 13, Section 13-66.11 of the revised ordinance entitled Parking Within Spaces, Fees, is hereby amended by deleting said subsection in its entirety and inserting in its place. Oh, that's a typo there, inserting in its place. Madam Clerk.
I've gotten permission from him as of today to fix that. So if we approve it as is, I can get rid of
All right,
it. He
correct.
just emailed me back today.
That's right. Whenever any vehicle shall enter that part of the Merriam Avenue and Colburn Court parking area, the owner or operator of such vehicle shall park within the space or spaces designated by street marking lines. Upon entering said parking area, shall immediately deposit or cause to be deposited in such meter the required coin of the United States or other legal tender for the legal parking period or proportional period thereof as indicated or shown on the meter, and, if so required, shall set the mechanism in motion. The fee for the selected time shall be in the amount designated on each meter. Such a meter deposit shall not be required if the mayor has removed or caused to be removed or otherwise placed the meter out of service and it is conspicuously posted out of service. If there is no meter in service at the time, there shall be no charge for parking in an open space that is not conspicuously posted as permit parking only. Parking shall be prohibited in spaces conspicuously posted as permit parking only unless the owner or operator of the vehicle has been issued a permit to park in said area and the permit is unexpired and it is conspicuously displayed upon the vehicle in accordance with the plan for permit parking established by the mayor. And further, by inserting the following new subsection, Section 13-66.11A, permit application information. Under the authority outlined in Section 13-66.9, any vehicle operator who wishes to park in that part of the Merriam Avenue and Colburn Court area designated as permit parking only must first obtain a permit from the Treasurer and Collector's Office. All permits are issued on a calendar year basis beginning on January 1 with fee provided pursuant to the following chart. It has a chart with a date of purchase and the cost. From January 1st to March 31st, the cost is $250. From April 1st to June 30, the cost is $200. From July 1st to September 30th, the cost is $150. From October 1st to December 31st, the fee is $100. Collected fees will be administered as outlined in Section 13-66.14. At no time will more permits be issued than available designated parking spaces. A hanging placard or similar device for such permit will be issued, which shall be affixed and clearly visible on the vehicle while parked in the designated area. Permits shall be marked with the year they are valid for, individually numbered, and issued to one individual or business who shall give their name and phone number at the time of issue. Individuals and businesses may purchase more than one permit. Individual permits may be transferred from vehicle to vehicle, but may only be used for one vehicle or parking space at a time. It is the responsibility of the operator to properly display the permit while parked in a designated permit parking area, and failure to display the permit properly may result in a parking fine. Permitted spaces are not numbered or assigned, and there is no guarantee that a permit holder will have access to a parking space. Permitted spaces are not to be used for long-term vehicle storage. Vehicles parked within the parking area must be actively registered and operational. Any permit holder deemed to be abusing the permit, abandoning a vehicle, or creating a hazardous environment shall have their permit revoked without refund, and their vehicle is subject to a towing and storage fee. And further, by deleting the last line of subsection 13-66.14 entitled Collection and Disposition of Money and inserting in its place the following. fees collected from the issuance of parking permits shall be deposited in the general fund and designated in the ledger as parking permit fees. All fees received by the city from the operation and use of parking meters and issuance of parking permits shall be used as provided by Chapter 40 of the general laws. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask that you poll members of my committee.
Councilor Bedanza
Glad it wasn't the first reading.
and Councilor Deacon.
In agreement.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs to adopt the second reading of 7-24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza,
Yay.
Councilor Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Brady,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Deacon,
Yay.
Councilor Frida, and I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 8-0. 7-24's second reading has been adopted. Moving on to the second reading on the agenda, which is formally petition 10-24. Mr. Chairman, you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Formally petition 10-24. This is a second reading of an ordinance. In the year 2023, an ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows, amending Chapter 7 of the revised ordinance titled Electricity. Chapter 7, Section 7-5 of the revised ordinance is entitled Placement of Streetlights Over Public Ways is hereby amended by deleting subsection A in its entirety and inserting in its place the following. A, any person or company desiring to construct a line, wire, pole, or conduit utilized for the transmission of electricity shall, in writing, petition the City Council to install said apparatus in wire dedicated to the illumination of a public way. A public hearing shall be held on the petition, and written notice of the time and place of the hearing, along with a copy of the proposed plan, shall be mailed at least 7 days prior thereto by the clerk of the city to all owners of real estate abutting and abutters to the abutting real estate that are within 100 feet of the part of the way upon, along, across, or under which the line is to be constructed, as such ownership is determined by the last preceding assessment for taxation. After said public hearing, the City Council may, by order, grant to the petitioner a location for such line specifying therein where the poles, piers, abutments, or conduits may be placed, and in respect to the overhead lines, may also specify the kind of poles, piers, or abutments which may be used, the number of wires or cables which may be attached thereto, and the height to which the wires or cable may run. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Bedanza
Favor?
and Councilor Deacon.
In favor.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation to adopt the second reading of this ordinance. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza,
Yay.
Councilor Cormier,
Yay.
Councilor Angelini,
Yay.
Councilor Brady,
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr,
Yay.
Councilor Deacon,
Yay.
Councilor Frida, and I will be yay by a vote of 8-0. The second reading of this ordinance has been adopted. If I may, I'd like to, for one moment, go back to 22-24. Councilor Brady, I know you had abstained, and I asked the city clerk, we don't need intimate detail, but just a general reason for
That firm has represented me.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, because I know that it's going to take a 2/3 vote for this, I believe. So just in case any of these people ask us why, I just want to be able to explain. Thank you very, very much. Okay, is there any other old business to come before the city council? Seeing none, is there anything that come into the community calendar? Councilor Frida.
Just a couple things. The Colonial Band concert, that's annual, and always very festive and professional and well attended. With all the Festival of Trees and City Hall, December 10th. And I'd also like to commend the band. I was critical at Memorial Day because they had apparently made a decision that they weren't going to be showing up at all the events. And I was a little bothered by that, as were some of the veterans. And I'm glad to see that with their new uniforms and their increased numbers, showing up at Veterans Day and the breakfast with the bands, outstanding. And I just think it's great that they have, they're participating in the community as they are. Also, I think just a clarification, we just got this letter tonight from Operation Services, and just to clarify that this is, there seems to be a misconception in the community with the two different letters that have gone out. Operation Services has been around since 2010. And Joe Fermani and his wife Kathy have been servicing veterans on their own in the beginning for many years, just providing trees to veterans that couldn't afford them, just to try to make things a little easier for them in the holidays. They've done the Wall That Heals. They've done the Johnny Rowe dog tag flag, and they are still doing Christmas trees. And I think the confusion was when another letter went out and said that they were no longer doing it. So it's unfortunate that anybody wants to play politics with veteran services, but they are doing it, I believe, at Colley's. So I just wanted to make sure people know that there an organization's been doing it since 2010 is still doing it. And just the last thing, that the clerk will be organizing and overseeing a recount tomorrow. I think a lot of people don't know that as well. So just important to know the community. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to come before the community calendar? Councilor Bedanza and then Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to recognize the school department, the football team, their coaches and staff, the cheerleaders, the band, for a great job done at Fenway Park. It was quite an undertaking to pull all that off. A lot of planning went into it. They did a great job. It was a great representation there. A lot of fans traveled to Boston to watch the game, and obviously Leominster prevailed and did a good job. So just want to recognize all of them.
Thank you very much, and I certainly echo those comments. Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Thank you very much. One other thing I just want to tell people about, or remind people that the Montechusett Chorale has their annual holiday concert. That's coming up this Sunday at City Hall at 2:00 in the afternoon, and that's always really, really nice. So for folks out there, I would encourage people to attend.
And also, I believe I saw in the library's newsletter, I think it's Sunday, December 10th at 2 p.m. If I'm not mistaken, there's like some French music there for an hour. There's somebody coming in, so it's free to the public. I think the doors open about a half an hour or so before time. So if anybody's interested in that. Anybody else? Councilor Angelini.
President, do you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would love to. Seconded by Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr. All those in favor? All those opposed? By a vote of 8-0, we are now adjourned. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry.
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.